What is up, guys? Nick here. Wanted to have a conversation with you guys about fuel economy in these Super Duty 7.3 Godzilla motor trucks. It's hot. Sorry about the background noise. It's like, well, it says now that we're moving 97. It was 102 when my truck was stationary. So you're gonna have to bear with me and listen to a little bit of AC. I'm sorry if it's distracting. I'm sorry if you can't hear me. You're not missing out on a whole lot anyways. So conversation about fuel economy that I want to have with you is not about like whining or complaining about what we think that these trucks should get, right? It's you don't buy a 3/4 ton big block gas motored vehicle to get fuel economy. What I want to talk to you about is some strange anomalies that I've had with my truck. Back when I had the stock tires, not stock tires, but when I had the tires, I bought this truck with 30,000 miles. So backtracking, when I bought it, it had 295 70 18 tires on it, which I think is about like a 33 and a half, maybe to a 34. Highway, I would get 13 and a half to 14 and a half. I put new spark plugs in the truck at like 60,000 miles, and I got a 2.5 to 3 mile per gallon jump. Like I went from that 13s, I guess it would have been about a 2.5. So I went from 13 and a half to 15 and a half, just changing spark plugs. They didn't look worn at all. The gap was still consistent, but proof was in the mileage, right? And I hadn't been checking the mileage when I fill up based on miles driven. It was just using what a lot of people call the lyometer or the lie gauge in here. Now, we recently, about a month ago, did a trip from southeastern Washington down into Oregon through Bend down to southwestern Oregon along the coast with our camper, towing it the whole way, with a couple day trips here and there where we weren't towing. So the anomaly was I decided I typically run regular unleaded because we live in eastern Washington and northern Idaho area, and gas is expensive up here. Super's a lot more, Super, I remember, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, some of you people can tell me that are on here, but I remember Super only being a 10-cent difference between regular and Super. But now it's like anywhere from 50 to 70 cents, maybe sometimes more, depending on where you're at. So cost effectively wise, I run regular. It's what the owner's manual calls for in these. They're a 10-to-1 compression ratio, which isn't super high, but that's pushing the needing the higher octane to not get spark knock, right? Not get pre-ignition. Ford says you don't need it. Anyway, we did our trip. We got down to Bend, Oregon, towing the camper. Decided to do a day trip up to Crater Lake. It was just over 100 miles from where we were at with our camper in Bend to Crater Lake one way. Elevation climb the whole way, going from 3,500-ish feet elevation up to Crater Lake, almost 8,000. So a good climb, but steady over 100 miles. The most of the climb was kind of towards the end. I put super unleaded in at a Mobile One gas station in Bend. Went all the way up to Crater Lake and back. Highway speeds were 65. The truck's got 430 gear ratio, so it's never been stellar at economy. Some of the people that I've read that have like 373s get better economy than what our truck does. Sorry, gotta get going here and around and move. Anyway, once I put the 37s on here with the Carly suspension, I thought I was going to have a big hit in fuel economy. It stayed about the same. I noticed a little bit of a decrease on the in-town driving, about a mile and a half per gallon-ish. It was around 13 in town, dropped to like 11 and a half. 11.8 is what it's at right now. We do our Bend drive, Crater Lake and back. I averaged 16.8 miles per gallon on an over 200 mile round trip. Blew me away. I'm like, what in the hell? Like, higher elevation, you have less power. Highway speed 65 to 70 the whole way. Stop and go. A lot of stoplights in the small towns as you're going to Crater Lake. did not compute to me. The best mileage I get in this truck is when I'm on the rural highways that are 55, and I get decent. I get upper 15s, low 16s on that. But highway speeds, that kind of elevation, stop and go, makes no sense. Sorry, I got a jackass trying to cut me off here. So anyway, I went and filled up gas. Had set the trip meter on the truck before that. I was like a tenth or 2/10 off on the miles per gallon from what it said in my truck to what I actually put in the truck. Pretty spot on. So then we hook up the camper. We towed 4.5-5 hours from Bend down to O'Brien, Oregon. If I was more tech savvy, I'd show you guys a map on Google Earth or something right now. I need to get better at doing that, but I'm not, and I don't care too much. So towed down there with the camper. Camper's 6,800 pounds dry. That's no propane tanks, no batteries, no water, nothing inside of it. So all of our stuff, our food, I keep about 10 to 15 gallons of water in the tank so that if anybody needs a restroom, we don't have to try to find a rest stop or let a gas station let us use their bathroom. So all of our stuff, camping chairs, tables, fishing stuff, I would imagine we're close to 95, maybe 10,000 with the camper. 2 batteries, two 10-gallon propane tanks, quite a bit, or 7-gallon, excuse me. Anyway, downhill, granted, most of the way. We had to go up by Crater Lake again, so a steady climb up there, and then down almost all the way to the coast. A few hills here and there. But we averaged on that pull was 11.8 miles per gallon, which is amazing for my truck. Doing highway speeds, I don't try to get good gas mileage. I just try to drive, and I do the speed limit, and I accelerate hard, and I like to get where I'm going in a timely fashion. So normal for me to own our camper with those type of conditions, speeds, distance, upper 7s, low 8s, 11 plus, incredible. Down in California area, we're right on the border of California. I ended up filling up on gas down there. We towed back up to Bend area. I ended up 11.3 on the return trip, which was predominantly uphill. You're going from dang near sea level up to 7,000 feet-ish on the highway by Crater Lake, and then we ended up going to Paulina Lake, which is a caldera mountain lake out of La Pine, right around 7,000 feet again. So high altitude stuff for us. 11.3, incredible. So I'm just kind of blown away, right? Like, I'm not understanding what's going on. Well, then we get home 2 weeks later, we take my pickup, we go to Seattle. Similar speeds on the highway, a lot more up and down, but not as much of an elevation change as what it was going from California, Oregon border up to Paulina Lake. But we averaged on that trip, empty, no camper, just my son and daughter, my wife in the vehicle, and a couple of suitcases, round trip 13.5 miles per gallon. I don't know. If somebody can tell me like what they think. So my thoughts instantly goes to, I know that we don't have a regulation standard for octane and fuel quality in the United States. I typically only fill up at Costco because Costco is the cheapest. They're a top tier gasoline as far as detergents. Didn't really pick a certain fuel when we were over there. It was Chevron, or it was the Mobil 1. Sometimes it was, I think, a Shell, but always super unleaded when we were in Oregon. Here, when we were in Washington, leaving from Clarkston, going to Seattle, North Seattle, Linwood area, and then back, it was Costco when we left in Clarkston, and Costco over in Linwood when we filled up to come home. But 13.5. That's a 3.3 mile per gallon difference without the severe elevation climb. and similar speeds. I mean, granted, when you get on 90 over in Central Washington at Vantage, it's 70 is the speed limit. So we were doing 75. But when we were in Bend going to Crater Lake, it was 65, so we were doing 70. So 5 mile per hour relative difference. Not having the stop and go that you did on that highway that you just eats fuel, but I mean a 3.3 mile per gallon difference. So my brain says, is Oregon's gas better? Is there a standard in Oregon? I can't find anything online. I Googled it, and the first thing on Google comes up with, despite comments or what people think, Oregon doesn't have any different gas. So evidently, I'm not the only idiot out there that has thought those things. I'm reaching out to you guys. You know, I know that I got 430 some subscribers. Wish I had more. If I had more, I could monetize. I'd have money to do some cool stuff on this truck, and I could create some more content for you guys. So, with that, like and subscribe. It helps me a lot. I really want to get to that 500 goal. I want to be able to monetize my account. I want to create content. I want to get better at doing these videos for you guys. I want to get some editing software. I would like to get some GoPros. I'd like these videos to be a little bit more entertaining for you rather than just watching a big-headed retard talk to you in a camera. Help me with that, please. You have some friends, ask them to subscribe. You know, they don't need to be married to my channel, but I promise you that if I get to those 500 subscribers, what I'm producing is going to be better. It's going to be better content. There's going to be more stuff with this truck. I'd love to get a winch on it. I'd love to install some higher quality lighting on it. I'd love to get a canopy, go through the process of what I'm deciding on that, how I'm doing, what I'm picking out. You know, there's a lot of things I would like to do on the truck. I'd like to get some different running boards, some rock slider style running boards. I'd like to get a AFE transmission pan that's aluminum instead of plastic, so it can radiate some heat and it's got a higher capacity. There's stuff I want to do. You know, there's sky's the limit. I'd love to get some power stop brakes, some slotted and drilled rotors, and some better braking on this thing. But all that takes money. Help me get to that goal, please. With all that said, I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this to the end. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe if you can. Try to tell your friends. Try to get me to that 500. We're close. We're like 436 right now. We're really close. And most of all, let me know what you think the anomaly. I didn't have a strong headwind or tailwind. Tire inflation pressures were the same on the front. I had the rear at 5 higher PSI. 5 PSI is not going to give me 3.3 miles per gallon difference. I don't know what it was. I didn't have a tailwind both ways, you know, of 30 plus miles an hour. Need your help on this, guys. Let me know what you think. Hope everybody's having a great day. Have a good weekend. Hopefully it's not hot and smoky where you are. Smoke's starting to roll in for us. Starting to get hot. We're going to probably go up to Hell's Canyon, get a little bit of sun, try to catch some bass. Hope everybody's having a great day. Peace out.